I'd like to echo Jay Nagendran's comments that, I'm really surprised and pleasantly surprised at the turnout at this session. Excellent to see everyone out here, and we look forward to continuing to have these events and have you out and really see what we're doing out there as far as monitoring and some of the data. And so I really look forward to this event. So David and I were co-directors for the Joint Oil Sands Monitoring Program. So David and I have been working the last few years to try and develop the program, try to manage it, and most importantly, ensure that the data and information is getting out there for folks to look at. So what I'm going to do, and I've got half of the time to split with David, and I'm going to just go through quickly. So what's the purpose of this session? And part of the rationale behind what we're doing here today is that during the last couple of years, I've been hearing about JOSM information and data being presented in Tennessee, being presented in Vancouver, and I was wondering, well, where's our forum? Where's the Alberta forum for this oil sands information? And so we really start to think that we need to now start to set the stage for an Alberta forum, an annual forum that then you can come to and you can really understand what we're doing on the oil sands side. So that's what this is really about. And if we go to the first slide, this is really, Purpose Symposium is an Alberta platform for disseminating data and results from the oil sands monitoring program. It's something that you'll be able to meet with our scientists. You'll be able to have scientific discussions, and I really want to emphasize that this is a science program. We do have other events where we talk sort of broader issues and broader stakeholder needs, but this event is really designed to discuss the scientific monitoring programs that we have, and so we're encouraging questions around those programs and good scientific debate. So how is this program set up, and how is sort of the Joint Oil Sands Monitoring Program set up? What we're trying to do with this program is really to understand, part of the program is set up around pressures and stressors, really understanding what the development is around the oil sands area, what we need to be looking at for potential sources, potential issues. And so that's, for the first part of the session today, it's set up around pressures and stressors. Then if we go to the next slide, we can talk about, again, the themes of the program. So again, pressures and stressors. Oh, okay, I have to do that. All right, thanks. Wasn't sure about that. Okay, so again, understanding the sources that contribute to the impacts, and again, the resource use, the emissions, and particularly land disturbances. We've got to understand, particularly in situ areas where there is quite a bit of land disturbance with some of the wells that are put up, that we need to understand the scope of that disturbance. So the first part of the program focuses on that and trying to understand the monitoring programs that are looking at those areas. The next part of the program then starts to talk about what our long-term monitoring network is. Because as we know, it takes a long time to really understand the impacts on the environment. We need to collect data over seasons, over years. We need to understand the trends. And therefore, you have to set up a good monitoring network to really continue to get that data and continue to understand potentially what the trends are in that information. And then the last part is really understanding focus monitoring. And what we mean by that is, where are the areas we need to go to look at potentially hot spots, potential areas that the long-term monitoring program is saying, hey, you need to do some more work here. So that's the third part of the theme of the monitoring program and of the symposium today, is to talk about some of those focus monitoring programs that we have. So again, the Joint Oil Sands Monitoring Program is centered around the following monitoring areas: water, air, wildlife, health, and biodiversity. Again, water is quite a large area, scoping into surface water quality and quantity. We have to look at the lakes as well and the potential acid issues in those lakes, chemical and biological fingerprinting, and then fish health and toxicity. Our air program focuses around ambient air quality, certainly looking at the emission sources and setting up our ambient network around ensuring we understand what those sources are releasing. Also deposition, where are all the pollutants going? Where are they landing, and are there impacts around those areas? And then transport. How are these pollutants being transported? And is there any transformation of those pollutants? So there's going to be a section around discussing some of our transformation work as well. Wildlife health. Again, we know that wildlife will be impacted because of all the development, so we need to understand what the scope of those impacts are. And so we'll have some presentations around that. And then last, I guess, area, and not least, of course, is biodiversity. You know, what is the impact on our vegetation and wildlife in the area, particularly as related to the numbers? So we have some presentations that will focus on that. So the last part of what I wanted to talk about today is, you know, what we've asked our technical presentations to present on. And really, I think Dr. Lauren Taylor was quite right about when he mentioned, you know, are we asking the right questions? And so what we've asked our scientists to do is really talk about, you know, what is the purpose of their research? What questions are they trying to answer? So we hope that as the presenters get up here, that you do hold them to these questions that are, I think, fundamental to our program. We have to understand what it is that we're doing out there, what it is that we're trying to monitor, and how is it helping us understand sort of the change in the environment out there. So what is the purpose and premise of the work, and how does it contribute to the objectives of the JOSEM program? Now, what are the core scientific questions the work is intended to answer? And what have they learned to date? I know that it's been a 3-year program, and through the program it takes some time to analyze the data and assess it. Today is really about presenting to you some of the information that we already have, some of the data and some of the analysis that has been done, but in some cases that data may not be ready yet. But you know, there may be some availability to at least talk about what the program has done and where they're going. So and that's part of the last question, is what are the implications for this work in the future? So those were the key questions that we asked our scientists to talk about today, and as I said, you know, we're trying to keep this forum at a science level. We hope to have a panel discussion at the end of each session, so it gives you an opportunity to ask some questions in regards to the work that's been done. We do have a network mixer, so you know, we welcome you to stay and talk to everybody, talk to our scientists, and really have some focused discussion there. And then there's some poster sessions as well in some of the salons that'll be available for looking at some of the other work that the program has been involved with. So with that, I just wanted to lay out the day for you. And again, you're invited to, again, listen, participate, provide feedback. We do want feedback, as Dr. Jane Gendron, our CEO, mentioned. Please provide your feedback, because we'd like to know how we can make these sessions better for you next time. And with that, I want to introduce Dr. David Boerner of Environment Canada. Again, he's been my colleague in administering this program for the last few years, and I've really enjoyed working with David. And so David will set the stage for really providing you a bit of history of what JOSEM is. I know that many of you here are new to the program, so David will describe what JOSEM was, how it originated, and what were some of the goals around that. So David.
Thanks, Prasad. So one of these is probably a trap door, right? So just a little bit of history, because a lot of people probably don't know too much about the JOSEM development. And there's really only 4 points I wanted to make about this. There's a lot of literature. A lot of people know about this. If you want to get into a discussion, I really encourage it. But just give you a couple of highlights and overviews. The first one is that JOSEM was built on a long history of existing knowledge in the region. We're fortunate to be able to stand on some really excellent, phenomenal work that's taken place. And if you look at this list, this is just some of the organized programs that have taken place. There's lots of other work as well. But you go back to 1975, which is now 40 years. I mean, if you haven't had a chance to look at some of the AOCERP documentation and products that have been produced, it's quite phenomenal. The work is inventive, it's creative. The data are sometimes limited by the technology of the day, but they're nonetheless critical and important. And JOSEM was built in full recognition of this existing massive amount of data. We're lucky to be able to stand on top of all of the work that some of our very talented predecessors have gone forward with. The second thing I want you to think about is that we've, as Dr. Taylor said, we've tried to learn from our mistakes. And it's not always mistakes, but there were panel reviews in 2010 and 2011, both commissioned by the federal and provincial government. These took a very critical look at the work that was going on for the previous 35 years and found that a lot of it was quite exceptional. They also found that it could be improved, and that there were places where we were perhaps not rigorous enough and not solid enough in some of the science that we were doing to withstand some criticisms that could be leveled against the monitoring program. And of course, as Dr. Taylor says, if you're trying to build credibility, you need to be able to withstand criticisms. So these reports are really illuminating in terms of the good things that were going on, but they're also illuminating in terms of the directions where we need to go to try to make improvements. And the JOSEM program was very much oriented by the fact that it was trying to deal with these improvements, not recreate all the stuff that was happening, but make it more solid, make it withstand the criticism that destroys credibility and confidence. The third thing is that JOSEM was designed starting with the end in mind. We talk a lot about supporting sound decision-making and informing decisions by various groups, be the industry or governments or regulators or whoever. You know, it's very hard to develop monitoring which is sensible for those people who are going to make decisions unless you think a little bit about what kinds of decisions they're going to make. And JOSEM was designed very much in that line of thinking to try and say, what are the types of decisions that we're going to make? If you look at the objectives for JOSEM, they reflect some of that thinking. And it's something we don't always remember in the science world. Bridging the science policy gap is huge, and it's critical for our society. It's becoming more critical every day. But it's going to start by a dialogue back and forth so that both groups understand each other. And this idea of starting with the end in mind was very much the thinking in JOSEM. It's not just a bunch of cool science that people wanted to do. It's things which were designed to try to give people the information that they actually need to make decisions. Not thousands of pieces of information that we have to kind of sift through to figure out, but actually the information that's most relevant to decision makers. And the final thing is, as I think you're probably getting a sense of if you haven't been part of this world, it's huge and complex. So JOSEM was an attempt to try to bring together multiple threads, a whole bunch of different considerations. And that complexity is just enormous. It's actually quite daunting as you start to get into it. But it's also the richness of what we're trying to do. You know, if you don't tie those threads together, you can't actually get the policy relevant results. You can't get the science that makes a difference. You can't get the regulations in place that actually constrain a problem before it becomes something that's significant. And so the final message I would put forward about JOSEM is that it was designed to try to be thinking about sharing, because this is too big a problem for any one group to manage. It was really thought to be a way to try to bring people together in a collaborative effort to try and get many hands to share the effort. And this is sometimes challenging. There's a norming, storming, forming discussion about groups. You know, there is an opportunity where people have to figure out how to work together. And by bringing together a whole bunch of people over the last 3 years, I think we've seen an enormous amount of success in doing that. We've also encountered a whole bunch of problems as we've tried to figure out how to share information and talk about things and reconcile our priorities. But JOSEM was that attempt to try to bring all those three things together. And I think in the last 3 years, we've made enormous progress. Job's definitely not done, but please keep in mind those kinds of four elements that were important. One, building on the legacy of existing people. Two, learning from the things that we had in our past experience. Three, starting with the end in mind, knowing that there's a use for this information that we're trying to generate. And fourth, that many hands make light work. And that's kind of an overview. I really encourage you to try to get some of this history if you're going to work in this area and you haven't been in the past. There's an incredible wealth of people in this room that I'm familiar with who know a lot more about the details than I do. It's a phenomenal opportunity in the mixers to try to get some of that context of the cool science and monitoring you're going to see today. What drove it? What was behind it? What built up to this point where we are today? Because there is a rich, rich legacy that we need to explore. And with that, I'm going to reiterate my colleague's comments, Prasad, that this is about you and having fun and having dialogue and having discussion. I mean, this should be very interactive. We're really hoping that people ask those questions, get that clarity. There's no such thing as a bad question anywhere. And I think that's what's going to move us forward. So please enjoy and participate.